Okay, hi everybody. I am here with Dave Farrow, and I'm going to read you his bio. He's going to help you with branding as an author, which is something that's very important. I know a lot of you feel like you write a book, you put it out there, and that's all you want to do. But the truth is, when you put a book on the market, you are now selling a product, and you're now a marketer, and you're branding yourself. It's the reality of writing a book and publishing it. So, Dave Farrow is best known for his brain power, listed twice in the Guinness Book of Records for greatest memory. He's first and foremost an entrepreneur who mastered PR to promote his own business. Most PR professionals have a background working in television, but they have no sales or entrepreneurial experience. Dave, on the other hand, took his skill in memory and developed several educational products and used PR as his primary sales tool. His results are impressive. Dave has personally been on over 2,000 media interviews. So, gosh, this makes me feel nervous about my interviewing skills. He has been on Dr. Oz, Steve Harvey, The Today Show, Fox and Friends, CBS Early Show, Live with Regis and Kelly, BBC, NBC, CBS, ABC, Discovery Channel, Science Channel. I mean, he was the star of a CBC documentary. So we're lucky to have him talking to us. Most recently, he won the $50,000 prize on the new hit show Superhuman on Fox. As far as his sales records, he sold an impressive $170,000 in online product sales as a result of one radio interview, and over $250,000 as a result of one TV interview. His appearances on Dr. Oz and other primetime shows have also been highly successful, resulting in over $55,000 in sales. This sales volume landed Farrow on the Amazon bestseller list in the category of memory for over a year, a sponsorship deal with Sony Corporation, and several venture-backed infomercials. These endeavors resulted in estimated sales over 10 million worldwide. So in short, we need to listen to what this guy says. Dave says the secret of his PR success is that he has experience knocking on the media's door and getting in for over 20 years. His success comes from years of practice selling his own products. For years, he supported himself solely from the web sales he received from traffic after media interviews. As a result, he developed the skill of selling in interviews without sounding like a salesperson, which is something as authors we absolutely have to know how to do. Today, he runs Farrow Communications and applies this experience to his clients' sales and marketing strategies. Wow, Dave.
You read the whole thing. Most people annotated, but you read the whole thing. That's great.
I wanted to read the whole thing because it's all pertinent to what we as authors do. And I want people to understand that they really need to pay attention to what you're going to tell us about today. And the thing that I wanted to ask you about first is about brain-based and mnemonic branding, which is something that your colleague mentioned to me when we were planning this. And I want to know what those are because I don't know. So I'm going to be learning with everybody else here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for having me on the show. I want to be as informative as possible. The brain-based and mnemonic branding, I'll start with that. So starting as I did as the memory guy, I found out that I could kind of, use that shtick to get me on TV in my local, hometown of Kitchener, Ontario, for example. And I thought, hey, I kind of like this being on TV. People notice you, I made some money and I made some sales. So I tried to repeat the process. And anybody who's tried to repeat that process, you'll know that, you can go to the watering hole once, but you can't go back again unless you have something new. Mm. So you have to keep on reinventing yourself or being relevant to get repeated publicity. Even in the Guinness Book of Records, I got on some great shows once, right? To get on consistently and do those thousands of interviews that led to sales, I really had to have something more. And then there's a number of strategies I can talk about. Specifically, the mnemonic branding. We call it that because coming from a background where I teach people mnemonics, and I love the art of memory. I still speak and teach it to this day. We have a summer school program for kids, things like that I just love doing. without going too far into the art of memory, and teaching a whole memory class, essentially there is a principle of the brain that can allow people to remember things without repetition. So, best example would be, if you were a hunter-gatherer and you saw a predator like a tiger or something, you wouldn't need repetition to remember where you saw it. If that was the case, then no humans would be alive anymore, right? If we needed to repeat that image 100 times before it stuck, no, it sticks the first time because of a number of reasons. But essentially, the best way I can describe it is to stand out. Now, there's two kind of balances for this. You can stand out in a controversial way. You can stand out in a non-controversial way. But just think of supply and demand, the fundamental principle of economics. This was what I was thinking when I was 17 years old, first figuring out if I wanted to run my own business. And I thought, well, if I'm the only one who does what I do, then maybe I can, charge more because there's a limited supply. And little did I know that was really what a speaker can do if you become a very good speaker. So the mnemonic branding is about creating a brand that you do fit into a category, a genre. The memory guy fits into education and training or personal development, right? But you don't, you have such a uniqueness that no one else in that market sector is offering, and you're able to use a few mnemonic tricks to help people remember that uniqueness. So I do this with people all the time where they're, a coach, right? But I have one client actually that's one of the most successful ADD executive coaching companies in the world. They make $1 million a year. They do really well. So that is where they focused just on ADD and just on the executive coaching and made themselves very memorable in that space. And I work with them a little bit to also, get them, gelled into that space. So some of the little tricks are things that you do with logos. I don't have my Farrow Communications logo behind me, but this is for brain hackers, and we have a brain, so that fits. But I give you like one simple example is we had a real estate agent. We made a new logo for this real estate agent. Her name was Tina, and she had the special distinction of being an environmentally friendly real estate agent, like a green agent. Actually a certification for this. I hope I'm not saying it wrong. I don't know the exact things that go into it, but it was an environmental twist to it. So we made the logo a tree made out of the letter T for her name, Tina. So you can put that at the beginning of her name and the logo and that sort of thing. What I did with our own company, I started off, it was kind of cheesy, but man, it worked really well. When I started speaking in the college market, I wanted people to remember my name. So I used to make a joke out of it, kind of like a comedian, like a prop comic or something. And I started off pulling out little Egyptian pyramids or something, to get people to remember. Then eventually I had like a Halloween hat, an Egyptian pharaoh hat. And then I turned it into a little bit of a logo, Farrow Memory. And it's cheesy, it's weird, but man, that thing worked, at least in that market. Now I think we live in a world where it's seen as cheesy, might even be, not the type of brand I'd want to develop because, it could be seen as making fun of Egyptian culture or something like that in these very sensitive times. So I changed the brand. And now, if anybody wants to go on my website, Farrow Communications, you can see it in the corner. Essentially, we created a little square, and there's an F, and coming out of the middle of the F is an arrow, and it's using the negative space to create the arrow. So my name is Farrow. It's F. And it worked incredibly well, just these little mnemonics. So it doesn't have to be a logo. It could be something to remember you by. There's a warm cookie principle as well in marketing, for example, that if you go to an event and halfway through the event, like you're at a seminar and somebody feeds you like a warm cookie at that time, then you're not going to remember the seminar, but you'll tell everybody about the cookie. These are the tiger in the jungle. These are the rare instances that perk up our memory. What you want to do is tie those events to your name and your brand. So ask yourself, like, authors are great with this. I would say, we work mostly with nonfiction. Fiction authors can definitely jump into this. And I could give a few examples, like Stephen King. His brand is he is the best of the world at scaring you. you know? He's a fantastic writer. He could have gone in a ton of directions. He's the best, so he wanted to be the best at that. And then he started putting himself in the movies about him, and he started to, you know, put his brand in the scary place. And there are other authors that are very good at scaring you, you know, but they just, you know, I think Clive Barker off the top of my head is a great one, and there's just tons more I could mention. But he was able to brand himself almost like, so you kind of use yourself almost like a mascot. So you remind people that this is what I do, this is who I am. And one of the most difficult parts of branding is, I find for authors and for individual entrepreneurs, is human beings, real human beings are multifaceted. I have a personal life, I have hobbies, I'm into technology and building robots. People don't even know half of this stuff. But if I try to sell all of that, then I'm remembered for nothing. So if you want to be remembered, think of it like a memory technique, is to target in on what you want to be known for, and try to come up with, if you can, try to come up with a visual that links that up. If somebody has a visual that links it to you, then it works really well. The Stephen King was kind of an example. I would also say one of the people I admire very well is J.K. Rowling. You know, her brand, people don't realize what her brand was that got her to take off. It wasn't that she made this great world about magic. It wasn't really the thing that sold the books, if you will, right? And I think she did this all on purpose. I've seen her early interviews back when like nobody knew who she was and everything, and she sparked a controversy with the religious right, and she rode that controversy all the way to Christmas sales that were record-setting for book sales. But it wouldn't have worked if she didn't brand herself as this one little thing. Actually, let me ask you, what do you think drove all those sales? What do you think is the one principle that drove all those sales that first? I forget what year it was, but it was like a breakout year for J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter.
I actually don't know.
Well, it actually was because she branded herself as the author who writes a book that's like this thick, but an 11-year-old can get through it.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
That was what she did. So, and I saw these early interviews. I'm making clips to make like a video out of it, but you know, she would have you know, this pastor say something, you know, nasty about her and this other stuff, and say something kind of hating on her, and she just would turn around and go, listen, I don't know about any of that, but I'm getting letters from people who, you know, have kids who are 10 years old and they just read a 300-page book, and she just said the thing over and over. Yeah, but there's a book. And then there was one time I saw on a show from her that there was an audience member who piped up and says, yeah, I don't care about this, I just care that my kid can read. So what sparked it? It was almost like she was branded as an educational tool, but it became the most sought after gift that particular Christmas. And then of course she was a household name, and of course the value of her writing. She's a fantastic writer, great world creator, like all the other good stuff is there. But the reason they picked up those books right then and there was because it did something for them. It did one thing that they wanted. It wasn't trying to be everything. It was like, this will make your kid read a big book, right? And that's what all these parents wanted their kids to do. They've been struggling to get their kids to read. So so I would say that for any fiction author, you know, you can also think of, what do you want your books to do? You know, if you have an author who, I mean, let's say you're true crime, but maybe you can have your book, you know, the story can be healing to somebody who's experienced crime, you know, something like that. And I don't know if there's anybody that fits that description, but that's the one little thing that you're going to tell people. That's the key that goes in the lock to say, this is what I do. And if you know anybody who's ever been a victim of a crime, they're going to love this book because it'll help them heal and open their eyes. You obviously got to say that in the right way. You don't want to sound patronizing, but that's just kind of off the top of my head. Every author out there, there's probably, you know, 5 or 6 of these different things you could do. The biggest mistake I find with these authors is they try to be too many things and be one thing. So think of it in terms of memory. You can only be remembered for one thing. So if you absolutely had to choose, what would be the one thing you'd be remembered for? And then how can you make that memorable? The image of an 11-year-old reading through Harry Potter was all that was needed. People never forgot that, you know. The image of Stephen King, you know, in one of his movies was so make it visual, make an image of some sort that ties it in. And this is hard work. You don't expect to do this overnight. but this is something that just thinking about this, you know, what's the one thing I could be known for? That's going to get you there, you know?
Yeah, actually, that's a big issue for authors. I work primarily with nonfiction authors, and I keep preaching that the book has to be laser focused,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of times it's they start veering off, and they end up down a rabbit hole where they're writing a different book, you know. And I keep saying, once you've settled on what the book is about, you've got a title and a subtitle, that's your true north. You got to keep pointing to it all the time throughout the entire book. And that's one of the
Yeah.
biggest problems I see people having.
Well,
So,
I would also add to that that it needs to solve a problem. Now, the problem might be I don't have anything to read this summer. It might be something simple like that. But so when you're selling a book, you can describe it as, you know, a quick, fun summer read, or you know, a thoughtful book that'll make you contemplate the meaning of life, or like, you know what I mean? So you could describe it as these things, but all of that packages together. It doesn't matter what the book is. It matters if the person buying the book has that need already. Like, I love thoughtful stuff. I read Seneca and other, you know, philosophers, Nietzsche and stuff like that. So that would appeal to me. I think I'm a small group of people, you know, but if you can find something that really solves a problem, then it can make a big difference. If you can make your book an easy book to give as a gift, then it'll really work. And this is one of the reasons why people, you know, they try to do, like, they don't do knockoff books, but that's, you know, you'll see someone who will be like, this is a new fantasy author. It's like Game of Thrones meets Mafia or something like that. And because that's the brand that people already know and remember. That you need to tie yourself to something, you know? But ideally you'd be unique in the marketplace. So when I say tie yourself to something, you could be the anti-Harry Potter or something like that. You could still be unique and different, have a different take. You're not just a carbon copy. I don't know. I'm having difficulty with the hypotheticals, but I think you get my meaning.
yeah, well, it's hard to do hypotheticals without something to work from. But yeah, I mean, I work mostly with self-help and memoir writers.
Yeah.
And I think with self-help, it's very easy to figure out what problem you're solving, because that is exactly what you're trying to do with the self-help book.
Exactly what you're trying to do, yeah.
But people don't realize that with memoirs, you have to come up with a reason why people want to read the book. It can't just be your life. Why would anybody want to read that? They don't know you.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I tell people memoirs need to have a theme. You know, it's not like an autobiography. An autobiography and a memoir are different animals.
Yeah, yeah, as with a fiction book and everything. I that some of the self-help books don't target enough either. If you're too general, you'll be just lost in this sea of positive thinking or something, you know? Mm-hmm. What you want to do is have a unique take. And I have a bunch of self-help authors that are friends of mine, you know, and we talk about this a lot, you know? There's one person, I won't say their name, they did it fairly well more recently, which was kind of like a tough love self-help author, you know? It was kind of like, you know, here's your motivational book, get off your ass type thing. It was that, you know, somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but just like, you know, you're the problem and you can be the solution. And like that sort of, you know, I guess drill sergeant.
Your face.
Yeah, and other people would be, you know, tap into your inner self, tap into your inner core, but you're the ideal thing if you want to sell anything, you know, not just books but products or anything, is if you have to convince a customer that they need the product, then you'll never make the sale. That just won't happen. You'll never be able to reach enough customers and take the time it takes to convince them to make it profitable. You'll spend more on marketing than you'll ever get back. But so the key here is find out what they already want. You know, the fans of J.K. Rowling, they already wanted their kids to read a full book all the way through. They're dying for that, right? That's a great one. And honestly, it's not like she's the only one who could do it. Some author watching, make your book really easy to read but big, and you could bill it as that, and it'll work. You know, lightning strikes twice in marketing. Sometimes it strikes 100 times the same hook. But they really wanted that, and then boom, they see this in front of them. Oh, that's giving me what I want. With my topic in memory, I didn't just sell like an improved memory. You think, oh, people want a better memory, but it's too general. I actually had, I'd say, three main categories. You know, one was age-related memory. People were worried about their memory as they get older. That is a very different conversation than talking to somebody about study skills and doing better in school.
Yeah.
And then the third one was business, some sort of business or going back to school as an adult. You're not worried about your memory, but you can't, you know, you went back to school, now you can't cope with this, the pressure of studying, or you want to succeed in your career and you want to impress people by remembering names and faces. So I had these three categories, and each one I knew exactly what they cared about most. You know, they absolutely, and a lot of it was things like, you know, they want to make sure that they try something that doesn't take too much effort or that they quit and get discouraged. There was actually something I found out, some of your self-help authors, if your process seems complex or difficult, it's not just that people are lazy and they won't do it. It's that they also have low self-esteem and they won't do it. What I mean by that is they will tell themselves, oh, I probably won't, that's too complex, I'll probably quit partway through, so I'm not going to try because I don't want the disappointment of quitting. You know, so they already assume they're going to quit if it's too complex. So it has to be, you know, seen as, you know, easy to do, simple, but gets a desired result. Some of the best self-help was hyper-targeted. Somebody like Tony Robbins is a very rare thing indeed. Most of it is like the ultimate stop smoking guide, you know, just to handle that problem, you know, the ultimate insomnia guide, thing like that, just handling that problem. And the problem is that a lot of these people, they don't want to be pigeonholed. They don't want to do just one thing. Yeah. The suggestion is if you let them put you into a box, they will take you to the top of the mountain, you know? You know, if you just let them do that, and then, oh, I bumped my camera. If you let them do that, then they will buy that product, and then they'll want to know what else you offer. You know, I also have a speed reading program that did very good, and a bunch of other visualization and other, you know, bunch of stuff that was an upsell. So you can always do that extra thing, but you want to think of what's that first hook that brings them in the door, and how can I make it, you know, visual or interesting to watch.
I think about Chris Carr. You know, I don't know if you know Chris Carr. I forget what her first book was about, but that she came up with this crazy sexy brand thing that applies to everything. Crazy, you know, she can apply it. Crazy, yeah. You know, anything can be crazy sexy. So yeah, you can use those and spin off on all sorts of directions.
Yeah, actually, that really brings up the idea of a multi-book author. If you've just done your one book, then you probably have to realize that when we're talking about branding, we're talking about something that you're going to do more long-term. So it's for your career. So you wouldn't just stop at that one book. So ask yourself, you know, plan out maybe 2 or 3 books. You can just even daydream. You don't have to write them out or anything. Yeah. But, you know, if you have a series, then you're planning it out. And, you know, you'd be surprised how many of these things can become very, very popular because they tap into something that people already want, you know? A whole genre of Westerns, you know, that we think Westerns are dead. But there's people who absolutely love them because they glorify life on the plains or life at the farm. Well, there are farmers who read. Little did you know. They love that lifestyle glorified, right? So, you know, the only thing is you don't want to do just like it's cheesy or like you're just pandering to an audience. You don't want to, you know, just go after Power Rangers or Teletubbies or something just because somebody's watching it. You want to be thoughtful about it, you know?
Tell me about your company now. What you do for entrepreneurs and authors.
Yeah, so one of the reasons why I've survived this long is because I've always focused on sales. You know, you have to bring products through the door, otherwise you don't have a business. And sales is half of any career. You might not think that, but that's just because someone else might be selling you. If you work for a company, you know, somebody else is doing the selling. But sales is half of the cost of every product. And the reason is that it's hard to get people's attention, hard to convince them to buy. It's hard to please people, you know, and get feedback and everything. And that is half of the value of any product is the salesmanship of it, how it marketed it to you. So we have a number of tools for authors and experts. The first one is publicity. We can get a very affordable price. I'll tell you my fees if you're interested. If you've ever looked into PR, it can be, you know, thousands, tens of thousands of, you know, decent publicists, like 4,000 a month to get one on retainer. But we have a very good system where we're a boutique PR firm, so we can take care of a lot of clients, but we have a system in place to make sure everybody gets the services that they need. We really just focus on getting bookings, tons of bookings with them. So we usually get about 50% more, or like almost double the responses in terms of bookings that other people do, and it's $2,800 a month for our spotlight services. The way we do that is that we do have a lot of friendly people, we call them friendlies, that are in the media that know us. So when we send something off to USA Today or to Forbes, we've done a lot of stuff with financial magazines, Forbes, Inc., Bloomberg, Entrepreneur. We've done InStyle magazine, NPR, Reader's Digest, things like that. So when we send stuff off, we're calling that person on a first name basis, so they know where it's coming from, and we're much more likely to get the booking. But there's also a whole cold outreach where we send it out to about 3,000 media outlets to review a book. So a decent response from a book review campaign where they just review the book and do an article. I mean, it's quite conceivable to get 10 to 20 bookings per month. A campaign getting 30 or 40, it's kind of incredible. The other product that I do recommend would be more for the people who have an existing business. But just to talk about the authors for a second, I know that $2,800 a month, we have a 3-month minimum, it's over $8,000. That's a good chunk of change for anybody. But if you think of it as an investment in your whole career, if I get you on Forbes, you can use that Forbes logo on your website for the next 10 years. I'm still milking the press I've gotten. Works just fine. So, and the reason you can do that is because it's the ultimate third-party credibility. If you have a media outlet, they do vetting. They don't let just anybody on the air. So automatically you're seen as more credible than your competitor. Going into the speaker realm, so somebody who has an existing business, not just a book, so you're also speaking, maybe you're coaching, or you have some other sort of business, then the PR will help you with traffic, but it'll mostly help you with conversions. That is, when you can name drop NBC or whatever show we got you on, then more people are going to buy your stuff, and it's going to be much easier to get them off the fence to buy your stuff and to hire you. And as a speaker, I can tell you, I get a decent speaking fee. I'm $8,500 to $10,000 for a speaking fee in corporate. But I can tell you that when you're at that level, I got a lot of competitors. Everybody who I talk to, I'm competing with someone else. So when they see how many different shows I've been on and what I've done, then that is what takes it over the edge. Somebody else can even have something very current and very exciting, but just the volume of press I've gotten usually makes it win out. And I've seen that with speakers as well at every level. They have no publicity. Once they get a few logos, even if it's like local radio station and stuff like that, they start booking more gigs, and they have a higher price point they can charge. The other main product that we do is lead generation. So if anybody has an existing business and you need leads for it, this is one of the most difficult things in business. And I didn't offer this as a service until we found something that worked incredibly well for us. So this is how we get a lot of business. And that's through a lead generation system. So we have a system that involves technology, involves software, but also virtual assistants, sending out tons of messages through social media, and then getting responses and sending another response back out. We do focus on LinkedIn, works really well, but we do a few others. And essentially what we do is you're going to get 500, actually I should say about 1,000, but 500 to 1,000 to be conservative, new connections per month with the system, and about 10 to 20 really warm to hot leads per week that are interested in having you speak, interested in talking to you about business. So when you get those kind of numbers, it's like the speakers just love it. They're getting regular bookings, they're getting regular business. They don't have to pound the pavement. They're all vetted because you go through the thousands of messages, then they send a reply, then you send a reply, then those that reply, it whittles down to the people who are really serious, and they're not going to waste your time. But 10 to 20 per week is still our norm, and that service costs $1,500 a month. So it's like paying the rent at an office. You get all your lead generation taken care of. So I'd say those are the two big ones. We also do some great web development. We've been told that our websites are very beautiful as well as functional, because I have a graphic design artist that leads the web development team. So they're just, gorgeous looking sites. You can check out one I'm very proud of is farrowcommunications.com. It's Farrow Communications with an S. And that's, an example of some of our work. We've got plenty more.
The lead generation package, is that also a 3-month minimum?
Actually, no, there's no minimum. You can try it out for a month. If it doesn't do everything we say, you can stop at any time. And we haven't had anybody stop yet. We've changed gears. We sold something else, but so far it's fairly new, but we've been doing it for a while now, and it's everybody just keeps on going. They just want to know the next iteration is. When you're running a business, it's such a solitary, lonely affair, and you put out all this effort. You go to a networking event, you maybe talk to 10, 12 people, but are they really hot leads, as in they are somebody who needs your service, has a budget, things like that, or are they just connections, and maybe one of those could actually turn into a sale? So by using technology, you can take that same system, that same algorithm, but we're putting you in a networking situation where you're networking with 3,000 people a month. And then from there, you weed out all the people who are not, useful to you. But people, I gotta tell you, if you wanna make money at this, you wanna have a career at this, you have to get some kind of scale. You have to be able to have something, maybe it's our lead gen system, maybe it's something else, but you have to be able to scale yourself and not just do your own effort.
Yeah, yeah. With the media stuff, does that work for self-published authors as well, or only for those who?
With the what?
Self-published authors, can you get them?
No, I missed the first part. It's about
getting people media attention.
Yeah.
Stuff. Can you do that?
Yeah, no, actually, we do this with self-published authors and people who are part of major publishing companies. It doesn't really matter anymore. There's so many people. There's been some very big celebrities that have gone self-published. There's been some very successful self-authors that went self-published. I mean, my first program was self-published and went into millions. If you can sell it, you can do it. So with technology nowadays, a lot of people are going the self-publishing route. Doesn't make a difference.
If somebody is going to write a book,
you're very unlikely to sell more than 100 copies or something, unless you do some PR, unless you do something like that. And PR is the only real, I guess, acceptable way that we sell books. You don't really see books in ads. I mean, you do occasionally, but it's not really done. It's mostly interviews. So if you're an author and you want to have a major career, you want to work on your interview skills and work on those skills to get the interview.
Absolutely. Do you recommend that if someone wants to write a book that they come to you before they've finished it to evaluate whether the brand of the book is viable?
Yeah, people can talk to us ahead of time. Depends on how far in advance. We don't really want to there have been some great successes that we've had when people did come to us later when they were finishing up the book and they were maybe about 3 months away from publishing. We had a chance to get media attention in advance. Or they could do a consulting call, a coaching call with me or something and work out all that stuff even a year in advance or something. If that's what they're trying to find out, if they're trying to find what their brand is and try to find their hook or their key, then they can do some coaching with us, but it would be premature to do PR. You want to do PR after you have a finished product and you have a hook. I'll give you one other example we had is Rena Roberts-Ship. She wrote a book. She's a grandmother and she's a school teacher. She wrote a book just talking about her and her grandkids. And it wasn't her. It was a fictional family, but it was kind of her. She's very Mary Sue, right? So basically, what it was kind of Nana knows best. It was kind of old-timey wisdom type thing. But we were having a lot of difficulty finding a hook for it, and then we found one that worked incredibly well. Like I said, tying into something that people are already concerned about. And there is a phenomenon called a skipped generation, where let's say the parents go to jail, right? Then oftentimes grandparents step in to take care of kids, or they get sick, or those are the two most common, I think. But all sorts of reasons that or they prematurely in a car accident or something, then grandparents are usually ones to step in to raise kids. And you have a lot of grandparents actually going to PTA meetings and meeting with teachers and stuff. A lot of people don't know this is a whole community. So we talked about, this book being a profile on the skipped generation. And it was immense. Once it tied into something that was a demographic, then we got, I think we got like 8 requests for an interview in one day. It was crazy.
Yeah. So that hook.
That's the kind of thing when I try about, tapping into something that's memorable, tapping into something that people are talking about right now.
Yeah.
And it's not that book doesn't do other things, but I need one thing to be the reason you pick it up. And actually, you confuse customers if you give them too many reasons to buy. A lot of times people think, oh, electronics does this, where the iPhone does 24 different things. There's only one reason they buy it. It's a mixture of status symbol and having the latest technology. That's the reason. Some mixture in there. All the different tools and features are why it's a status symbol and why it's the latest, greatest technology. But that's really the motivating force. I found with my memory program, number one reason people bought it is a fear of embarrassment. They didn't want to be embarrassed to remember people's names, So that I started putting in my marketing, and trying to appeal to that. If anybody has low self-esteem or is having troubles with that, this can really help them. And I'm very proud to say that I've helped a lot of people. I've got thousands of emails, just saying how like there's some people who said they wouldn't be able to graduate medical school without my technique. Yeah. So I'm passionate about your product too. I should bring that in, but we're just talking about the marketing today.
Right. Exactly. Of course. Yeah. So it's farrowcommunications.com. Is that correct?
Yep. farrowcommunications.com. You'll probably put a link to it somewhere.
I will.
I assume. Yeah. And you can connect to us there. Maybe get a consultation with me or, talk to some of my staff, and we're happy to help you out.
Great. Dave, thank you so much for talking to me today. This has been
it's been a pleasure. This has been fun.
Yeah, this has been great. This is exactly what the authors I work with need once they finish with the writing and all of that, and then they feel like they don't know what to do. So this is great. So thank you again. Wonderful to talk to you.
Pleasure's all mine. Thank you very much. Take care.
Have a great rest of your day.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.